Okay.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry, I'm just pulling up my note sheet here. Okay. Okay. Hi, Carolyn. I'm glad you could come in today. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
So, since this is our first session, I thought maybe we could kind of get started and talk a little bit, first just get a sense of where where you are for the day, how you're doing. And then if you feel ready, I'd like to go through it and talk a little bit about our coaching agreement and what our sessions might look like. So how are you doing coming into session today?
I'm having a pretty good day. Little
Good.
tired, but I'm good.
Okay. So you feel ready to sit down and kind of be engaged in this for the day? Great. I'm glad to hear that. Okay. So, excuse me, have you participated in coaching before?
I've had coaches before, yeah.
You've had coaches before. Would you like to tell me just a little bit about your previous coaching experience?
At the recommendation, I did a workshop, and somebody in the workshop had this spiritual coach they really were just blabbing about and thought this
Oh,
guy was really great. And I thought, well, I've never had a coach, and I'm making a little bit of coin, so why don't I try it?
nice.
He was very nice. I don't think it was a match, actually.
Mm,
He spent like an hour and a half with me without charging me to see if we were a match, which was kind of
mm,
impressive. And he's like a world traveler kind of person.
mhm,
But he's very, very Christian,
mm.
and I'm not Christian. And it felt like just a little weird because he was, I don't know why. He's a nice guy, but it wasn't a match, let's put it that way. And then I did have a great experience with a psychologist who's also a coach. So I was sort of seeing her for supervision. I was seeing her for different things. And because she's a coach, it kind of colored our work together. So I didn't see her per se for coaching.
Mm,
But I
okay.
think in her work with me, I kind of got a flavor for coaching. And she's a modern analyst. She's very goal oriented. So that's sort of I guess I had a little bit of coaching experience from somebody who wasn't necessarily coaching me.
Okay, so you kind of received some coaching for someone that you were receiving supervision at your job, right?
Yeah, more or less. And then I
Okay.
had a mentor coach who I saw for uh, now about maybe 10 sessions because
Okay.
I'm on the road to being a coach. So I
Hmm.
wanted to, have some structure, like go into it and just know where I was going and keep my keep progressing. I didn't want to like get scared and run away. I wanted to like keep going at it. So that was helpful. And she did a bunch of testing on me, and she's very, very nice. She's quite expensive. So I'm, taking a little break from that.
Hmm. Understandable. Okay, well, it sounds like you've had quite a bit of experience with coaching then. And that's great. I think there's a lot of different environments where some coaching can take place, right? Um, so just to let you know, you might notice that there'll be some things that might kind of feel familiar and some things that might be new in our coaching engagement.
Mhm.
I'm an ICF certified coach, so we have some specific standards we have to adhere to. These are primarily for kind of your protection and also to help ensure that you have a good experience with coaching as much as possible. Um, so, would it be okay if I tell you a little bit more about that?
I would like to hear that. Yes.
Okay, great. The coaching we'll do here, from kind of a overhead look, it might sometimes seem kind of similar to psychotherapy or life coaching, but it's different to those types of helping relationships. So, although, as you know, my background's in clinical psychology, in our sessions, I'll be wearing my coach hat instead of my therapist hat. And that really means, although we can still kind of discuss just about anything you want, we'll focus on issues related to your work life. So that doesn't mean we won't talk about anything personal, because our personal and our work lives really do intersect and of course influence each other. But we'll stay kind of more focused on the present. We'll talk about specific goals that you'll set for yourself when you're ready. We won't spend a lot of time talking about your early family life, for example, or things that happened a real long time ago that might have sort of influenced your thinking. Those things might come up briefly and we might discuss them a little bit, but we're really going to try to stay focused on the things that you want to do and the things that you want to change. I'm here to help you accomplish your goals. So, excuse me. If in the course of our conversation, though, you decide that you think it's really important to focus on subjects that would be more appropriate for psychotherapy, I can offer you some great referrals and resources for that. I wouldn't be able to serve as your therapist because we'd be continuing in a coaching relationship. And so it would be best for you to kind of have those sessions with somebody else and have a specific psychotherapy relationship with somebody else if you decide that that's what you want. Okay. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Great. So your coaching sessions are entirely for you. Just to let you know, what we do in coaching sessions is generally confidential. Because your employer is kind of financing the coaching engagement, I do have an obligation to let them know whether or not you attended sessions and whether or not I have the impression that you're actively engaged in the coaching process. So that's really just about it. If I feel like you're engaged in kind of making progress, basically doing anything, that's what I would share with your employer. I don't share the really detailed bits of what we talk about, what your goals may be, any of your stuff that's going on in your life. That's nobody else's business. That's just for us to talk about here to work on your goals. um,
I have
so aside from that,
can
sorry,
I
I'm
ask a
sorry.
question? May I ask a
Absolutely.
question?
Mhm.
So if you feel that I'm not actively engaged, will you tell me before you tell my employer and give me that feedback?
Absolutely, yes. You will always be aware of anything that I plan to share with anybody outside of our coaching session. And generally, just to let you know, overall, even my staff that might help with scheduling, stuff like that, we don't generally discuss in great detail what we're going to be doing here in coaching. So I do want to mention, I forgot to mention a little bit earlier, that because this is part of a training activity, if it's okay with you, I would like to go ahead and record our sessions. The one person that will see what's going on in our sessions would be my supervisor. And she'll just be watching those or segments of those in order to give me feedback on my behavior in the session. So the supervision is really not about what you're doing in great detail, other than for her to give me feedback and suggestions on how I can be a better coach for you.
Mhm.
So that would be one other piece where we would share some information. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Great. Um, okay, so moving on a little bit. We will have regular meetings that we'll set up. They'll be either an hour or half an hour. It sounds like we would maybe like to determine that a little bit more on a case-by-case basis. We are set up for 4 sessions going into the future. So we'll complete those 4 sessions. And then as we get towards the end of that, you and I can discuss if we feel like, you might want to continue the engagement, or if, you've accomplished what you wanted to and you're ready to take a break. That'll be entirely up to you. Okay, so kind of in service of that, I do normally like to take some notes in session. I just kind of have my little notebook here, and I like to do that to keep track both of things that get covered in one session and we might want to revisit in the next, or even in session there might be something that you mention, and while I'd like to let you kind of finish your thought or process something through and make your own conclusion, I might like to make a couple notes about something I'd like to bring up later. Typically, I keep those notes for about 6 months and then I destroy them. Do you think you'd be comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so for each session, also, we will briefly check in on that coaching agreement, make sure that you're still okay with recording and note taking, and we'll kind of set up a little bit of a plan for what you would like to talk about. So if that's okay, I'd like to go ahead and get started in that today. Does that sound good?
That sounds good.
Great. Okay, so what kind of brings you into coaching? What are some of the main things that you're interested in working on?
Well, there's 2 things. One is I'm starting my coaching practice, and so I'm very, very busy. I'm taking this class, and it's taking about 8 hours a week, which is a full working day.
Mhm.
And so it's making me very, very busy. Like I probably worked a 11-hour day on Monday. maybe like a 9-hour day yesterday. It's just my days are very, very long because I have a full-time therapy practice and then I have a part-time coaching practice. I have about 5 clients, 4 of them are weekly. And then I have, just keeping up with all the homework, and then I'm taking an additional class, which meets once a month, and trying to get what I can out of that. So that
Sounds
said,
like quite a bit of work.
it's a lot of work. Yeah. And I'm in a sales and marketing coaching group. And what is being recommended is usually January. It can be a month where a lot of new people can come into your practice. So I'm trying to work on a kind of a low cost, easy entry group coaching. And it will be like part teaching. There'll be like a teaching part, and then there'll be like learning/coaching part. It will be on Zoom. It's going to start in January. It's going to be 3 times a month for an hour each time that we meet. And the first month is going to be free, like no obligation, because it's going to be focused on therapists who are earning too little and want to get out of managed care.
Okay.
And so it's pretty niched. I've tried to start groups before, and so part of it is there's a little bit of a confidence issue, and I'm a better marketer than I think I am, but I'm also just so busy, and what it involves is having to go through my email list and do videos on my phone, and like there's a lot of stuff I need to do. Some of it's visibility stuff, like with the videos, and some of it is just administrative, and I'm a business of one person. So it's really, the last thing I want to do is to go through my email list, to go through constant contact. And so just finding a way to make sure, like for accountability, to know that I am on track with that. Because I think I'm going to need to do a bunch of work up to about mid-December just to get enough people to join the group. So I actually have one person who definitely wants to join, and she's going to talk to her friends. So I want to start by having like an email that's focused on people that have a more personal connection. The marketing will be like, like leaking little by little to people that I don't know, but for I'm going to be full disclosure to the group of people who I have more personal contact with, and see among them how many of them might sign up for it. But it's because it's a coaching group online. It's not it's not a therapy group. It's not limited to 8 people. I can have like a lot of people, and it will be recorded and all that. So anyway, so blah blah blah. So that's my bear. Like that's probably I have some feelings about it. I have some procrastination about that. And it would be really, really helpful to be able to talk about it and maybe get some feedback and brainstorm, how am I going to freaking do that in the next month? And then the other thing is I'm working so much, and I'm doing so many things in different areas of my life that I need to take time every week for self-care and fun. I need to talk about like, this week, what am I going to do so I'm not burnt out? What am I going to do for myself? Because I'm very ambitious and very hard on myself. And, it's not fun to be me sometimes. So I want help with that. Is that clear enough?
I think so. So it sounds like you're very busy. You're a busy lady overall.
Very busy.
You're taking on some new things that you sound pretty excited about overall. And it sounds like you've done a lot of work kind of pre-planning and structuring and figuring out what this offering is that you want to offer already. So that's impressive. You've really got a pretty well built out plan for what you want to do for this coaching class, right?
I do respond to praise, so bring it on. Yeah.
That is good to know.
Yeah.
But it sounds like even with a fairly well developed plan of what you want to do, you're having a little trouble managing just the volume of that work. Is that right?
I did a lot of administrative stuff in the past, I don't know, 8 months, and I'm kind of burnt out on it. Like again, the last thing I want to do, but I really got to do, maybe I'm being too ambitious. I'm not sure if I'm being too ambitious in terms of getting my email list and together. Maybe I don't need to have as many people as I think I do. Or I'm just not making time for it. I'm not sure which is, maybe both. I don't know. Is that clear?
I think so. I was listening and just thinking back of something that you said just a couple minutes ago, where you had been talking about how there's a substantial amount of admin work to do. And then also you'd mentioned kind of making videos on your phone, and other things you need to do, kind of content creation sounding work. Is that right? Those are kind of the main categories of what you need to do.
I mean, the content is already pretty much it's pretty much scripted for me by
Mhm.
my sales and marketing coach. Like he just
Okay.
did a demo and I'm just going to imitate whatever he did and tweak it a bit. It's more just like, I'm nervous about, I don't think I look good on these phone videos. Like it's vanity. It's pure vanity.
Okay, so I'm hearing a little bit of apprehension around the content creation, but mostly I think what I'm understanding is that it's the admin work that sounds really that's really daunting, or that's, kind of hanging over you. Is that right?
Um, I would say I'm equally procrastinating
Equal.
both of them.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I'm doing a lot of shit. I'm not sitting on my ass.
Hmm.
It's just,
Right.
I need to make room, a little bit of room to get this stuff done. And maybe it won't, I'm hoping won't take too long, but there it
Well,
is.
it's pretty evident that you're a hard worker, and you're not, as you said, kind of sitting on your butt, or you wouldn't have already been able to come up with as much as you've come up with, right? You wouldn't have gotten here. You're this far
Again,
along
the
in your plan.
praise, very good. Love
Um,
it. Love it.
well, praise is nice, but I'm just trying to get kind of a feel for where you are, and what are the specific ways that you're approaching this problem, so I can kind of
Yeah.
come to understand what are actually the parts that are hard for you, right?
Mhm.
Because it differs for different people. So it sounds like you don't have trouble kind of doing anything, right? You
Um,
are doing stuff,
I'm
but
doing,
there is a lot to do.
there's legit, like, for example, this morning, I had an 8 a.m. patient. Um, and then I had to do some paperwork after the session and I had to do notes. And then I had a 10, I thought it was going to be a 10 to 11, but it's a 10 to 11:30 in-person meeting because I agreed to run a mentoring program for my Hudson, the local chamber of commerce.
Oh,
And then I had a supervision group from 11:45 to 1:10. And then I took a whopping half-hour break and I went to the library to return a DVD because I just wanted to go outside because it's such a beautiful day. But I feel like most days, and then I'm meeting with you, and then I'm meeting with a patient, and then I mean a client, and then I'll probably be done around 4:30, but that's an early day for me. So this is a manageable day, but I still feel like, oh, I just want to go outside and relax or have like a full lunch break or like a, you know what I mean? I'm my own worst slave driving boss.
mhm.
So I've committed to so many things right now, and it's just, and I possibly am being perfectionistic in which I have to watch in delivering whatever I'm delivering. Like I have
Okay.
to
You
pull
said
back,
you might be perfectionistic.
definitely.
Um, what does that mean to you, or how does that affect you, that perfectionism that you mentioned?
Um,
How do you think that kind of shows up in your work, or how you approach your work?
so I just have very high standards, and I'm assuming everybody else has my standards and are judging me based on, I'm not critical of other people, it's more on me. I think, anyway, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but it's like anything I do, like for example, I was in this meeting with the Chamber of Commerce, really nice ladies, and they want me to be part of this mentoring program. And I felt the urge to take over and like, because they were going a little, like they were going a little off topic. And I'm like, wait, not, not my monkey, not my circus. I don't have to make sure that this is going in the right direction. I had to like stop myself. And at one point, somebody said, "Oh, Carolyn should do this questionnaire." And I said, because I volunteered a lot of the questions and I volunteered that we should have a questionnaire. And then I said, I don't even remember anything. I was just honest. I don't remember anything I said earlier. I had a burst of energy and then I just spaced out. I
Okay.
was tired. So I just have to be able to say no, or, just, I was making suggestions that I started to make suggestions that was going to make this mentoring process more rigorous. And then I realized, like, I don't want to do the work. Like, I just don't have the time to do the work to make it like the best mentoring program ever. And it doesn't have to be. And it's not just me, you know what I mean? So, like in that instance, I want to contribute, but I want to be like a team player. And I have this urge to, like, I don't know, make it even better, whatever's happening, like what I think is even better.
Sure, kind of see, it sounds like you see this opportunity for this thing that could be great and helpful to others. And it sounds like the others respond that yes, that could be great and helpful to us. And they've then started to have some ideas about how it could be done. But it sounds like you're kind of the expert in the room. And so you contributed a lot of useful ideas.
I contributed a lot of ideas, which is why they wanted me, because they don't really know what mentoring is.
Mhm,
At
mhm.
one point, somebody said, "Oh, and the mentor could do the social media," and I was like, "Well, actually, that's not mentoring, and that's really not what it is." So, yeah, I mean, to some degree, yeah, but I mean, just empowering other people and sitting back a bit
Mm, okay.
for
Okay.
that.
So,
But that's just an example of, like, there's a part of me, I just want to be the best always. And
mhm,
it's exhausting, and I don't have to be the best always. Like,
I bet.
if I'm going to be as busy as I am, I need to not phone it in, but
Mhm.
just not be so ambitious. That makes sense.
I think so. It sounds like you're almost talking about wanting to work on not so much setting boundaries so that you can say no to things. Excuse me, although that may be a separate issue, but it it almost sounds like you're talking about setting boundaries in your head personally before you start making suggestions, and maybe a process of kind of weighing the importance of contributing suggestions or ideas with how that's going to affect your boundaries. Does that make sense? Does that
Not
sound
exactly.
accurate? Okay.
Not
Can you tell me a little
exactly.
bit more?
I'm good with giving suggestions, but just the okay, I don't know how to describe this. Let me try. So the perfectionistic part of me, and the part of me that, like, wants everything to be really high quality,
Mhm.
is it takes me out of the room, sort of away from the other people, and then I'm like planning in my head, and then I'm not with people. And the whole point of even volunteering, it's a networking thing. It's like, I want these people to get to know me, and it's part of my business plan. And I've now gone off task in a way for the reason, I mean, why I need to be there. Does that make sense? Like, this, making this really great. I mean, I want to, I want to contribute, but I feel like it takes me off task. I don't know if that makes, if I'm articulating that.
I think so. I'm hearing a little bit more that perhaps this activity is really something for the people who you might be mentoring to come up with their own ideas so that those will work for them.
No, this isn't, I'm not mentoring. We're just putting together a program, and their people will be mentors. It's like a pilot program, though. 9 people will be mentors and 9 people will be mentees. And we're just trying
Okay.
to sort of plan out. Today was about how do we match the people.
Hmm.
And everybody turned to me and, like, Carolyn, you decide.
Right.
Oh
And
no.
well, and so in some way it sounds like you are kind of the mentor to this group that's setting up the mentoring plan.
I guess I
because you're the coach? No?
sort of, except I don't want to take over.
Right. I guess that's what I'm wondering. Is it sounds like maybe you kind of want to be a mentor to help them set up this program, but they also need to kind of bounce off each other and come up with the ideas for how they'll do the program so that it best works for them, instead of just using all of your ideas that you might set up for a program that would
They
work well
do.
for you.
They do. I mean, this was just an example of my
Hmm.
perfectionism. I was just trying
Yeah.
to, I don't think I expressed myself well because I feel like it's just, it's like let me describe it this way. It's like an internal pressure to be
Hmm.
the best always. That is exhausting,
Hmm.
given
Hmm.
how busy I have suddenly become in the past couple of months.
Sure.
So now I'm the most busy that I have been since grad school. Um, so
Wow.
I need a pressure release valve for
Hmm.
that. It's always kind of there of like, if you're not the best, you're not good enough kind of idea. Like you're not making it. And it's not a reasonable, it's totally irrational and it's not a reasonable thing right now. It was okay before when I was less busy, but it's
Okay.
taking up way too much energy
Mhm.
and brain space. And I
Okay.
need to like, and
Mhm.
I need
So the
space.
perfectionism is keeping you very busy,
No, I'm busy.
but you're more
Even
busy
without the
in
perfectionism,
you
I'm
have the perfectionism though, and the needing to do everything perfectly takes more time than figuring out what
it's
level it needs to be done
yeah,
at,
it's been
right?
something I've been working on, the perfectionism
Mhm.
for a long time, like just trying to tame it. But I'm just
Mhm.
telling you, it's there.
Gotcha.
It's
Yeah.
it's still there.
And that can result in a high level of perceived necessary effort, right?
Energy, mental energy,
Mhm. Mhm.
because it takes energy to be like, oh, it's gotta be perfect. And I don't like the pressure. I don't like the feeling of pressure. I'm kind of a creative person and I like to have fun, and it's not fun. So it
Right.
makes whatever I'm doing not
Definitely not
fun.
fun.
And
Mhm.
I'm at my best when I'm having fun, when I'm
Okay.
enjoying myself, when I feel criticized, or whether it's coming from within or outside,
Mhm.
or it's not fun for me.
Can you give me an example of a situation, of a work related situation, um, that would perhaps be the counterpart to this situation that you described with this Chamber of Commerce group, where you said that, that push for perfectionism yourself kind of took over a little bit, and
It didn't actually, but it was there. It didn't
in
take.
your mind though, do you, or in the not necessarily in the group, but do you feel like in your mind that was kind of starting to take over
I
and giving you that
success.
urge to?
Yeah, I mean, it was enough to be exhausting. I battled it. I didn't act on it.
Okay, great.
In this
Okay.
instance, I'm just saying it's like it's there, and
Hmm.
it's part of what's exhausting me, and it's part of what's making it harder to get other stuff done.
Okay, so do you think that you are usually successful at setting that aside, and then things go as intended, but it takes a lot of mental work? Or do you think that you're sometimes not successful with that, and it becomes external and kind of changes the situation or changes the nature of the work for you?
I think about that. Oh, it's hard to say because it's been it's had it. I had to make it better, or I wouldn't get anything done. Um, when it takes over when I have to do something like the task that I need you to help me with, like
Okay.
when I'm alone, and I'm nervous about accomplishing something like this, this getting them doing the marketing for this project and getting people to sign up for January. And I tend to overwork and I tend to overstress instead of clearly defining things I can do that are doable you know, I feel like I could work, like, I'll say to myself, okay, you're gonna work for a half hour on this. And I'll work for 3 hours on my computer without a break, like that sort of
I'm
thing.
sorry, Carolyn, sorry, the internet cut out for a second there. You said
Oh,
I'll plan to work for half an hour and then,
then 3 hours later, I won't have taken a break and I'll have a headache and I'll be exhausted and I
okay.
won't want to go back. And it's all like paperwork shit. Like, oh, I have to go, like, do I use constant contact or do you use get response? All these little decisions. I have to make an email list and should I label it this? And should I include this person? And should I include that person? And all that bullshit, the minutia of it. I can get into the detail and there's a part of my personality that's detail oriented, but it's not my favorite part of my personality.
Okay.
And then I just get like overwhelmed with that.
Okay. And what would that look like for you? Are there any situations where you've been successful at limiting that time and taking the break the way that you just kind of described that, this is the situation that really happens and I end up 3 hours later? Can you think of any times that you've been successful at giving yourself that break and kind of noticed how that was for you?
Um, Not often. If it's a computer thing, I hate being on the computer.
Mhm.
And I tend to, like, I don't like to give up. I have a persevering personality. So I just, either I avoid it or I tend to overwork. So I haven't figured that one out quite. I mean, I'm not, I would say that, okay, there was one time I was more successful, but it was a project that did involve another person. When I got my logo done, it was there was a person that I did it through Fiverr, and there was this really wonderful woman in Pakistan, and she'd been recommended to me, and she was great. So I'd send an email, and I would get an email back within a half hour. It was amazing. And so we got that sucker done before 2 days, like back and forth, and it was not bad. Like, it was really very efficiently done. But there was another person. There's another person, no sweat. That's why I need an assistant. If it's just me and I'm doing something I hate, it's just, I just don't know how to manage that.
What do you think it is about that other person
I don't
that
know.
that makes that easier?
Um, I don't know. It just gives me perspective and I don't get lost in the task. And then the part of me that's detail oriented, it just doesn't misbehave because I have some social understanding of like I don't want to frustrate this other person. Like, I'll frustrate myself, but I don't want to frustrate them, because it's annoying, like, to be so in the weeds of, like, to do things so thoroughly. And maybe it's what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't even know. Or maybe it's not necessary.
Hmm.
I'd like to, if it possible, I'd like to work less hard for greater effect and find the shortcuts and not get stuck in time consuming things, if that's possible.
Okay. So I want to just try to understand a little bit more in this example where you were working with someone else. Um, and it sounds like you were kind of pinging off them. You did a little something and then it was their turn and then they get back to you. So they send an email. So they're kind of, triggering your awareness of, oh, I better go and do this. Was there any relationship with that and the idea of going and taking a break?
Well, I had to take a break because if I didn't hear from them, I couldn't do anything. So that it enforced
Okay.
breaks. And because I did my part and they did their part, it was more like chunked. It wasn't like
Hmm.
all this stuff. It was like
Hmm.
this part of it.
Okay.
Just to give you an example, So I agreed to give a talk for the Chamber of Commerce in July about women in leadership. And they decided what I was going to talk about without consulting with me first and posted it on social media. And
Wow.
I know I was not happy. I'm shocked that I'm still with them, but they're sweet, but I don't know why they did that. And then I found out about it and I was like, okay, now I like all the things I was going to talk about changed.
Mm.
And this was a couple of days before I had to give the talk. Um,
Wow. That is pretty last minute.
it was, yes. And it was a holiday weekend that I was planning on finally getting a rest. So I was really not happy. But I was like, okay, just do this. I would say I really overworked. And part of it is I really didn't want to do it. I had some resentment, but also it was such a thorough talk and so detail oriented. I was talking so fast when I did the presentation because there was so much content. I loved the presentation. It was a huge success. Everybody was like, I got a bunch of testimonials for it. I mean, but I was like, I wondered if I had to suffer that much, if that was necessary. And that's when I want to be a man, because they don't do that. They don't do that. We do that. And I was like, oh, I wish I had a dick. I wish I was socialized as a man so I could just be like, well, I'm just going to phone it in. Like, I know what I'm talking about. I didn't do that in this instance. And I just was like, oh, I want to make a good impression. So, I mean, I made a good impression. They want me to be in this mentoring, to help them develop this mentoring program. So just like, when can I make it easier on myself? And maybe it's outsourcing as part of it, maybe outsourcing to the Philippines or some place I can afford is part of what I need to do so I don't go crazy. Am I
So
throwing
it sounds
too much
like you're
stuff
kind of,
at you? I can't
I'm
tell.
sorry?
Am I being confusing or throwing too much stuff at
No,
you?
no, not
Okay.
at all. Not at all. It sounds like in these situations, you have something that you want to do, you're committed to it. Even if the circumstance changes, you really want to do a bang up job, and you do. You're successful at that. But
Right.
it sounds like you're starting to reflect a little and say, but at what cost to me?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
And how
Okay.
can I make this easier?
Okay.
So I guess it's funny. I guess my two goals are very similar. I need to do fun self-care things, and I
Mhm.
need to approach certain tasks that I don't want to do at work with more self-care and just kinder to myself.
Mhm.
Still getting the work done and that I need to get done, but also just making it easier.
Okay. I just want to ask quickly, just for kind of from my understanding, um, what do you think about your ability to estimate how much time tasks will take and what kind of commitment you're making? Do you feel like there's any kind of a disconnect there, or do you feel like you have a pretty good sense of what it will take and you commit to it, um, and then you just do the most above and beyond that you possibly could, and
Can
that's
you
at
say that
great
again?
cost to you?
Because I'm having trouble. Can you say that one more time?
I'm sorry. Um, do you feel, how do you think that you do in terms of when you take on these tasks? Do you feel like you have a clear-eyed picture of how much of your time and energy will need to be invested? Um, and
No, I never
then
know.
that changes and you take on more? I guess I'm trying to get a sense of, is one of the things that is challenging here is need to better understand how much time and energy will be involved in something, or is it that you see the task in a clear-eyed manner and you understand what you need to do and you allocate the time for it, and then you start working on it and realize how great it could be, and then suddenly you've worked on it 3 times as long as you meant to?
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So for our work in particular, I'm just focused on this very specific task of the marketing for this particular coaching program.
Okay.
But in the past, so that's like our work. In the past, I'll try to give you some examples. So in setting up my business, it forces me to do things I don't want to do, which is like I went on PandaDocs, for example, and I put all my coaching documents, that people like, there's a questionnaire and there's a contract that says this is not psychotherapy and blah, blah, blah. And I put it, and so I had this, that was like, I had to have a sales call, and it was like $1,000 a year. And then I had to put, it was a whole drawn out process. And then I had to figure out how to work the program. And then I got myself on an electronic scheduler. And that it's like a lot of change. It's like a change in my routine meant to make things better and smoother. But then I have to learn a new computer program, and I fucking hate doing that. Like, I hate being on the computer. I was administrative assistant. I put myself through grad school, but I don't like that. I don't want to be a secretary. I don't even want to be my own secretary. Like, I'm done with that, but I have to do it. So it's not my forte. I can't say, oh, that should just take, like, I'm always wrong when I predict. I'm thinking, oh, I'll just do that. It will take me 1 hour, and it could take me 5 hours. And I'm just trying to get it done, and because I have a sense of high quality, I might be doing it more thoroughly than I need to do it, but I don't have perspective on that. But I can just tell you, like, these are things I don't want to do. Like, that if I want to do it, it's not a problem. And I don't think I'm necessarily good at these things either. Like, these are not my strengths. And so I can't predict how long it will take. I'm always wrong. It's always more time consuming than what I think it's going to be. And it's sort of demoralizing. And then,
Okay.
and I have like a list of things that I have, I'm not even going to be able, my web content, getting a new website, like I have a long list of things that eventually I need to do. They're not a high priority. So I've tried to this is a high priority, this thing that I want to work on with you. I've put a freeze on a lot of the things, but there's just an endless list of things like that where I have to learn a computer program, or I have to change what I'm doing. And I'm trying to get all my patients on a HIPAA compliant scheduler, but then the two calendars are not talking to each other. So then people double book, and it's like, like, just that I need a secretary, So now I have to call Acuity and be like, like, can you sync these calendars? And I don't know what they're going to say. And then so it's just stuff like that. Like, I think it's going smoothly, and then there's a problem, and then it needs more of my time unexpectedly, and it's a time suck. And then it's not fun to do these things. So I don't know if I'm bitching
No, that makes
a little
sense.
too much in this session, but we're just talking about shit I hate to do.
I think that's okay. Especially since this is our first session, it's important that I kind of learn a little bit of the subtext around what's going on
Yeah.
with these work challenges. That's why I've kind of asked for a few examples. And of course, as we move forward, we'll try to identify real specific goals that you want to work on. But sometimes it's really hard to tease out, what are some specific things that I can work on, and what things am I just going to live with for a while, like you had said, kind of backburnering these other things to be able to focus on one thing at a time. And that sounds like that's something that comes up in your work
Yeah, I don't want to
regularly.
dump on you the global task of straightening me out globally. All I
Uh-huh.
want to look at is this one, because that would be way too much for our time, the time that we have. But
Mm-hmm.
just this one, like, how do I get a handle on, you know, moving forward, being motivated to maybe chunking my time, not
Mm-hmm.
overdoing it, getting it done, and not, hopefully, not having a different experience and not being quite so exhausted
Mm-hmm.
by
Mm-hmm.
it. So that, we may not be able to do all of those things, but even if I can get motivated to do it, that would be great. Or there's some accountability that's built into the coaching, that would be great too. Or,
Okay.
bookend, like I'm sitting down with Constant Contact and I'm blah blah blah, um,
Okay.
or tasks, homework, like by next week you
Hmm.
will have done these tasks, stuff like that. It would be helpful. So I don't know if that's, I'm trying,
Yeah, that.
it's a global problem
Hmm.
that's very big, but I want to like, this is all I need
Hmm.
from them.
Okay, super. Well, it sounds like you're pretty able to identify the kind of larger ongoing things that you struggle with. Like you had spoken about the perfectionism a little bit. And it sounds like that's something that you work on overall in life, and maybe you're not as interested in spending a lot of time in coaching on that. Sounds like you're more interested in spending time on coaching, um, to work on accountability, particularly for doing administrative tasks that you don't like. I really heard a lot of emotion around when you had said, I don't even want to be my own secretary. That really came out as a strong,
Yeah.
um, almost its own goal, right? I want one of my goals, it sounded like one of your goals is not to have to do all this volume of admin work, right?
Yeah, I mean, I might end up needing to, I mean, maybe I'll end up hiring somebody. I don't know.
Hmm. Okay, so you're already thinking about options, but it sounds like that's a real strong push for you. So even when we talked about, um, some of the different things that do come up, the perfectionism, wanting to do things really, really well, and possibly spending more time than you had planned. It sounds like the strongest emotion that I heard the entire time that we were talking was really about, having to do certain kinds of tasks that you don't want to have to do. It sounds like you perceive yourself as not good at them. Um,
Well, it's like these
and
these these computer programs like Pandora and Acuity
mhm,
and everybody's like, oh, this is a great program. It's so user friendly. I
right.
never had that experience, like ever,
Okay.
ever.
I think that's true for a lot of us. I think that's entirely normal.
And maybe
Um,
it's I'm a dinosaur. I'm not a millennial. I'm definitely not a millennial. I'm definitely not a Gen Zer. Like
sure.
I want to deal with a person. I don't want to deal with a computer.
Well,
Like,
I can tell you that, it's not uncommon. That is something that I hear, a frustration that I hear all over the place,
mm,
is that folks find those learning curves for the new apps and programs and integrations, especially, to be very challenging. So you're entirely normal in your frustration,
well,
I
that's
think.
reassuring.
Um, and there are different ways that people address that, kind of based on, what works for them. Um, Getting someone else to do it is great. That's not, that may or may not be a goal that requires much work and coaching. It sounds like as of right now, you've not yet decided to get someone else to do it, or you don't have that right on the horizon.
It's
So,
it's not going to be this year, but
mhm,
it might be a coaching goal in the future just
mhm,
because
mhm,
I can only afford to hire somebody from like another country. And
mhm.
with those folks, you have to be very specific in what you tell them to do, like very specific,
Yes, yes.
like very, very specific. And
Hmm.
so that might be some work to learn how to do that or to make sure I'm doing that.
Hmm.
Because otherwise, people have told me these stories of like, and you have to have them check in with you. And it's like a
Hmm.
whole, it's not,
Right. And you hear sometimes that sometimes managing somebody else doing a job takes almost as much time as doing it yourself for a substantial period of time, right? Until they really have that experience and they're able to do it for you. But that can be, its own time investment, right? So it sounds like for the kind of for the present, for our coaching engagement, um, I wonder, what do you think would be the particular goal that you want to pursue? Would that be related to kind of work scheduling and task management, and incorporating, time for self care or time for relaxation or fun? Is that kind of where you think that would go?
I'm having a problem in that I really have to go to the bathroom and I have the client in 7 minutes.
Okay.
And I'm having trouble processing what you just said.
Okay.
Um, I would prioritizing, you mean like,
Mhm.
I don't understand.
Do you think that a goal that would work would, or at least a direction for a goal for you, would be to focus on, um, scheduling and getting your these kind of minutia admin tasks done in a way that allows you some time for self-care?
Yeah, no, I would like to be more efficient
Mhm,
in and have, like, if I have to do a task, I would like to do it within a very specific, like a shorter period of time.
mhm, mhm.
That makes sense. Like have
Okay,
some time management and see how that goes, for that. Yeah.
okay,
And then just make sure that I'm planning something, that I'm not neglecting myself, my personal self.
okay. Can you think of any goals that, might work for you between now and next week? Is there anything that you can think of that you might be able to do to kind of get started on that?
No, and I have to go to the bathroom, so can
Okay.
you hit the
So
pause button?
it sounds like we might like to end our session at this point for now.
See,
Um,
yeah, because I have to
yeah,
cut for the next, for my next client.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so next week we'll chat a little bit more, and hopefully we'll get to working on a specific goal that you'd like to do regarding this kind of time management, getting tasks done,
Mhm.
kind of stuff. So if you could just give that a little bit of thought between now and next week, we can talk more about that in next week's session.
So we're gonna talk about, like, sort of homework?
hmm
Okay, I will think
We'll
about that.
talk about refining your goal a little bit, being as specific as we can. We'll kind of come up with something that seems real manageable that we can work on week to week.
Okay,
Great. Thanks very much.
so when are we meeting again?
We are meeting, let me pull up my calendar.
Is it Friday? I don't
I
remember.
think it's actually Monday. I'm sorry. Let me.
It's Monday, okay.
Yes, we will be meeting next Monday, the 15th at 9 a.m. Eastern.
I have 3 p.m.
Sorry, you're right, 3 p.m. Eastern.
Okay, good. Okay, super. I'll see you then.
Okay, thanks very much, Carolyn.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.